good. Hi, y'all. Long time no see. I'm going to jump on in here in just a moment. I don't want to keep you guys waiting too much longer. All right, we look good. If there are any bufferings or anything that happens in this live, just go ahead and refresh. I find that usually does the trick, but we're looking good on my end. Welcome, y'all. Good to see you. Good to see familiar faces. Hello, Serene Goddess and Sweet Sloth, Mystical Frank. Hi, sir. Oh, I am excited to catch up with you. Kelly. Oh, we got a lot of good faces. Darren, hi. Oh, this is going to be good. Francesca. JT. Oh, yay. All right. Sorry, just checking a couple things really fast. All right. Looking good. Let's go ahead and dive on in. I usually like to give it a moment, but you guys have been so patient already, and we've got a number of questions already coming in, about 60 people in here already. That number is going to, of course, grow, but why wait? It's been a long time. Welcome, you guys, again. Happy Sunday. I hope your Sunday is going wonderfully. I hope your weekend has been relaxing and good. And thank you so much for being here for another round of live Q&As, where we just hang out, we talk about the law, and as always, I'm here to help bring clarity and understanding so that you can apply these teachings to your life and your desires and dreams. It's been a minute. Thank you guys for being so understanding about last week. For those who have asked, Kitten is doing well. He is just fine and back to his rambunctious self. I woke up that morning and he was a little bit coughy and sneezy, had a little bit of a upper respiratory thing going on, but he's doing good. And yeah. Let me just see. Oh, had a pop up there. But everything's going good on that end. So as far as anything, before we jump on in, as far as announcements go, I've had a number of people reach out about one-on-one coaching. The waitlist is still in place. That will open again soon, and I'll of course announce that as soon as it's getting ready to open. If you are interested in any of my resources or working together, I do have email coaching available. I've got some spots open for email coaching. You can find all that information down below. And I believe that, let me just check the notes. I think that's everything. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on in. Let me see back at the top. Oh, this is actually a really good question, Sweet Sloth. Typically, I do go in order, so I will go back to an order, but this question has caught my eye. I think it's a really important one. Missy, what do you think are the most common mistakes made when manifesting SP that make people manifest for years without success? Good question. So, what are some of the most common mistakes that people make when manifesting a specific person that make people essentially why some have waited years or have been applying these teachings for some time without seeing any movement or success? The most common things, I should probably make a series about this. Number one, double-mindedness. Naturally being sort of back and forth between living in the end, living in that end state, and coming back to fears and doubts and old story, checking the 3D, things of that nature, being very much hearers of the word instead of doers. That kind of thing is probably, I think we've all been there. I think this is something that everybody has experienced on this journey. I certainly have. No judgment. Mm. Um, and the other big one is sort of the mentality of I need to do all these techniques to get something. So it's the perspective of the law that's important. Like this is why I am so adamant about building up a solid foundation when it comes to understanding the law, when it comes to understanding imagination, your creative power, and how imagination is not just some kind of, we're not doing these techniques to try to like check a box and then get something on the outside. It's about who we are becoming, who we are being. It's about, as Neville put it, that radical transformation of self, the change in our beliefs, the change in our assumptions. So a common thing that I see, and I certainly did this too, was utilizing the techniques and then checking the 3D for validation, checking the 3D for confirmation. Because that's sort of, if we go into this with the mentality of, I need to do all these things to get something outside of me, we're kind of priming ourselves to do just that. We're getting ourselves into a very terrible habit from the get-go. So instead, this really should be first and foremost about the change in self. That should be the gauge. That should be what we are observing and what we are taking note of, instead of looking for 3D movement. Because the 3D, as everyone has heard, the 3D is a mirror. It's just reflection of what you are internalizing, what you are believing, what you are assuming. It's only and always going to show just that. So I guess what this boils down to is the change is first taking place within us, and then we see that reflected externally. So yeah, double-mindedness and checking the 3D or using these techniques and these teachings as a way to try to get something on the outside, which of course is what we all want. That's why we're all here. But we need to understand that the change is first within us and then reflected out, not the other way around. Good question, though. As within, so without. Exactly. Oh, where did that comment go? I just saw something that caught my eye and then. No, thank you for the heads up about that, Sierra. I don't know what's going on there, but I will definitely look into it. I'm sorry about that. Make a note of that. All right, going back to the top. Hi, Missy. Happy Sunday. Can I manifest that I don't age and my body physically stays 30? I don't want to age. Thank you so much. I'm. This is a great question. I've actually seen this one come up a lot fairly recently when talking about manifesting physical appearance change and things like that. I mean, can we manifest that we don't age? I mean, the short answer is yes. Anything is possible. I know to what degree we believe that. There may be a lot of people that venomously disagree with that statement. That's fine. I'm not here to try, like, don't take my word for anything here. Just put this to the test and build your faith in the law itself. But I mean, there are plenty of people that do, like, look decades younger than they are. I mean, we see that. There's plenty of evidence of that. People in their 50s or even 60s that look like they're in their 30s. I wouldn't even say that that's like an incredibly uncommon thing. So, I mean, absolutely. It's again, it's coming back to like how you are identifying and how you feel, right? Now, the thing that we have sort of working against us is the firm conditioning and belief that everybody ages, that we're all going to get old, we're all going to age. And myself personally, there's nothing wrong with that. But then again, that's a personal thing for me. Um, but we are very, very conditioned to believe that to be true. So it may feel very challenging to believe and assume otherwise. That said, is it possible? Anything, anything is possible. Yeah. Hi, Jackie. A little bit ago, just out of fairness, I want to give everybody equal opportunity to get their question answered. My apologies for any inconvenience with that, but yeah, no super chats here. I do offer email coaching if you want to make sure that your question is answered, if you want to uh, work together in any kind of capacity like that. But I want to make sure that everybody has, chances getting their question answered. Yeah. Hi, Missy. I was on vacation for the first time without SP. I had moments when I missed him a lot, which caused a flood of bad thoughts, etc. Oh, is it like that we have to experience every single thing without our SP so that it will be easier for us to manifest them? We have to experience every single thing without our SP. Um, I mean, it doesn't necessarily, if I'm understanding your question correctly, and do correct me if I'm wrong, Sweet Sloth, um, we don't have to experience everything without our SP. No, no, not. If you're talking about like, do we have to first experience all these things without our person so that it becomes easier? Uh, maybe our attachment to them will lessen if we get used to doing things on our own. I think that's what you're asking. Um, no, no. I mean, when in no contact, it's going to be different for everybody. Some people find it easier when in no contact, um, to imagine, to really go to the end. If you're in contact in the 3D, because you're constantly, encountering that physical proof, so to speak. And due to our attachment of the 3D, it can feel very difficult if we are in communication with them. But that said, short answer is no. We don't have to go through the trials of doing things without her to manifest them. No. Let me see. It's a great question sticking out. I love it. Hi, Missy. I visualize that it's done, but when thoughts come to my mind, I naturally think it's going to happen. Is this the wish fulfilled? Did this happen for you during your manifestations? Um, yeah, no, I think from what you're describing, yeah. Once once that has been impressed, once you reach the Sabbath, so to speak, and once you imagine to the point of conviction or to the point of satisfaction, um, you'll naturally sort of drop the techniques, the needing to do more, and the feeling is very much, this is complete, this is done. As far as the 3D is concerned, yes, it's not physically present in this moment. So in that case, yes, it is going to happen because everything unfolds in a series of events out here in the 3D. In that case, yes. But we do want to make sure that we are not keeping ourselves in a state of anticipating, like essentially waiting for the 3D to change. Um, so the wish fulfilled feels very, like, in terms of your desire, when you're in the wish fulfilled, thinking from your desire, it's going to feel very natural. Like you're not going to notice double-mindedness, or if you do, it's not going to resonate. You're not going to have any kind of reaction or attachment to it. It's just going to feel like an everyday fact of life. I'm spamming the hearts to show appreciation. Thank you. You are sweet. Hi, Missy. Where was it? What are your thoughts on dating other people while manifesting your SB? I've been against it, but now I've been single for 3 years. LOL, help. Um, Dating while manifesting your person. I mean, I'm of the mind of you can do whatever you want. Like there's no right or wrong answer, basically. For some people, they have no desire to date anyone else, and that's fine. For some other people, they want to still kind of go out, live their life, meet new people. As long as you maintain that end, as long as you maintain that fixation on the end, on the wish fulfilled, like you keep like steadfast in knowing that this is done, whatever takes place in the 3D, like doesn't ultimately matter. It's not going to matter unless we decide it does, if that makes sense. Basically, it's not inherently wrong. It's whatever you feel comfortable with doing. Yeah. Hi, Missy. I wondered how the law of assumption works for people that therapists may say are narcissists. What if they treated multiple people the same way? What if they have all of the characteristics? Good question. Um, how does it work in the context of the law when it comes to narcissist? Well, to have a better understanding, we want to make sure we have an understanding of everyone as you pushed out. And everyone as you pushed out in the simplest terms means that everyone in your world, in your reality, everyone is going to show up in the way that you assume them to show up. They are going to act and react in a way that you believe they're going to act or react, whether that's somebody specifically or people in general. If I have an assumption that people can't be trusted, then I'm probably going to have a varying degree of experiences that do just that, that confirm that belief. You know, that's really the short and long of it. So when it comes to people who are narcissists, and maybe they have had patterns of this before, in previous relationships, or have done this to other people, again, if we have an assumption that somebody is a narcissist, then that is the state that that is the state that we have selected. That is the version of them that is going to that we're going to encounter, basically. Uh, that said, we absolutely do not subject ourselves to any terrible behavior from somebody else. We do not give them a pass because, oh, I manifested it, it's my fault. We don't do any of that shit. Don't do that. Um, Always put yourself and your well-being first. But the other thing to understand is that creation is finished, which means that every version of every person already exists, including that version of them who is a narcissist. But there is also a version who is not. So Essentially, it comes down to what we are assuming about other people. Yeah. Going back up. Let me see. Oh, Danielle, yay! Oh, I'm excited. Hey, Missy, I'm so tired of getting in my own way and being double-minded, so I signed up for more email coaching. Oh, I'm excited to work with you and continue. What would you say was the thing that made you finally persist for good? Excellent question. Because and I've tried my best to be very transparent about my journey, because I think it is really important that other people see that you're not alone in this. And I don't try to sugarcoat. I don't try to do anything like that. This has been one hell of a ride. And there were certainly moments where I almost threw in the towel. I wanted just to throw all of this away, just burn down the lab and be done with it. I can say, probably a lot of people have been there. What got me to ultimately not do that, what kept me persisting was thinking about the alternative. Every time that I was this close to just saying, "Screw all of this, I'm done. I'm done with the law. I'm done with Neville Goddard. I'm just gonna go back." The thing that stopped me was just that. Like, the alternative was to go back to being miserable, to being incredibly fearful, somebody who was deeply hurt, deeply insecure. That was not an option for me. That was it. It was either, yes, there are incredibly difficult moments on this journey, and as we really learn to change our self-concept, and it's hard. It's not always. A lot of people talk about how manifestation is so easy. That's not always the case, and I would say most people would agree with that. But the idea of just falling back asleep effectively, being the victim of circumstance, being at the mercy of other people, and just no, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it because at that point I had already seen too much. I had already built my faith up enough to where I couldn't dismiss this. I could not deny that the law was real. At a certain point, you cannot chalk things up to coincidence. You cannot just say that, oh, this happened by chance. You know that the law is true. And there's even a part of us on a much deeper level, I mean, maybe even like a cellular level, that knows this to be true. So even though at times I desperately just wanted to give up and walk away from all of this, the alternative would have been 1,000 times worse. And thank God I did not give in. Hey, missing my first live. I'm glad to be able to watch it here in Austria. Welcome, Lexi. Good to have you here. Let me see, where's my spot? Hi, Missy. I recently read Awakened Imagination by Neville, and it has been the best Neville book I've read in a while. I finished it in 3 nights, and it was so addictive to read. Yes. That is a great one. I think that was his first book, if I recall correctly. Not 100% on that, but that is a fantastic read. All of his books are amazing, but yeah, yeah, definitely get your hands on the complete reader if you haven't yet. How do we know the visualization worked? Should we feel it real or feel different in our body when doing it? And after it, we would have more good thoughts when coming out of prayer. Absolutely. Yeah, yes to both of those parts. Should we feel it real or feel different in our body when doing it? Yes. Yeah. When imagining, when in your imaginal act, you should notice almost like a bodily reaction. You should notice a response from what you are imagining. It's similar to what you would experience if it were in the 3D. Like if, let's say, you're manifesting an SP, and in the 3D, like you had this lovely reunion and everything went wonderfully. I mean, you would have a noticeable reaction to that. The same thing applies when imagining. So yes, you will typically feel it in your body. And after it, would we have more good thoughts when coming out of prayer? Yeah, what we should notice coming out is a feeling of satisfaction. It should be a feeling of this is done. Like, as in this just happened. Almost like your imaginal scene feels like a memory at that point because it already happened. Um, so yeah, we want to begin to notice a natural change in our thoughts and our reactions in the day to day after coming out of prayer. Yeah. I mean, we may fall back into an old state. Like it may be that we have to persist in continuing to go to the end, but we should start to notice that shift internally in how we feel. Yeah. Hi, Missy. I'd been doing revision on 100 plus unpleasant memories, not really traumatic ones, by scripting once, and I've been noticing thoughts being outpictured faster than ever. Do you know what? Oh, that's awesome. Revision, revision. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. I'm going to keep saying it. Revision will change your life. Um, as you continue to revise these memories, as you continue to revise the instances of the past, uh, you're going to notice a change in, like, if there's any resistance to something, if there was once resistance to something, there's no longer going to be resistance there, right? Um, so it's not uncommon that you would see things out pictured faster because a lot of the things that were keeping you double minded are no longer doing so because you're changing them. I hope that makes sense. But keep going. Keep going. Just curious if those are your guitars. Those are my husband's guitars. I am. Uh, I have started picking guitar back up again. That's why I don't have any nails on. Um, but yeah, no, he's the guitar player mainly. Oh, absolutely, Annie. I'm going to be making sure to get that over to you today. Yeah, keep an eye out for that same invite. Let me see. Hi, Missy. Things have been great with SP, but then they go back 2 steps. I believe I'm always in the state. I try sats at night, but I just can't seem to fully grasp it. Yeah, yeah. SATs can take a little bit of practice. It's not something that most people are familiar with doing. Um, Certainly took me some practice. So don't beat yourself up if it feels at first difficult or challenging. I've made some videos on SATs, handful of videos now that you can definitely check out if you haven't seen them yet. Just kind of giving some tips and things to keep in mind, what to look out for, things of that nature. So perhaps that could help. Uh, but just to be clear too, we're always moving in and out of states throughout the day to day. It's where we return to most often that counts, that constitutes as the dominant state. Um, so if you feel like things are going back two steps, I would make sure to revise any instance that happened. If there was an argument, if they did something that was not pleasant, I would make sure to be revising it. Don't let those instances slide under the radar. That can lead to patterns, that can lead to just facing the same kind of situation in the future. But um, this is normal. This is normal. We may be a bit back and forth, and until we've really consistently grounded ourselves in our faith and in our imaginal act and in our state of consciousness. Yeah, it is really just the practice of going back to that end. 70 times 7, without force, without forcing it. Going back to the top. Hey Maggie, I'm gonna look into what might have happened there. Definitely make sure, if you sign up for email coaching, there should be some instructions. Like on the confirmation page after checkout, you should have a list of instructions. But you can also find them the on my website. But I'm gonna make sure to look into what happened there. But I want to also make sure that you're sending the messages to the correct address. But I'll make a note and make sure after this live to get right back to you. My apologies for that. Hi, Missy. I manifested the perfect salary for my job, and now I'm in the Sabbath with my SP. Life is great. Arja, that's awesome. Yes. Yes. Oh, I live for this. Congratulations. Yay. No, you're not late. You're not late. We're starting a little early today, so usually I go on at 10 a.m. Pacific. But yeah, you're just on time. Hi, Missy. I've been trying to manifest a car for the past 2 years, and up until July, I had a lot of resistance to it. But these past 2 nights, I've had a dream that involves me getting my own car, part two, last night. And last night, I had a dream that one of my best friends, whose dad owns a dealership, told me that my dad bought me my dream car just in the wrong color. Oh, wait. I had a dream that one of my best friends, whose dad owns a dealership, told me that my dad bought me my dream car just in the wrong color and in the trim level, but the model Lexus GX. Ah, I love that. And that's always, I mean, really good indication if we're starting to notice dreams playing out as our, like, the wish fulfilled playing out in our dreams, that's always good reinforcement. Yes, I love that. Congrats on your new car. Let me see. Where was my spot? Is it possible to manifest someone who is a celebrity? Yes. Yes. It is possible to do anything. As difficult as it might be to believe that, when it comes to manifesting somebody who's famous or a celebrity, there may be a bit more resistance to that idea because in our mind it could seem like oh, this person is so huge and big and they can have anyone they want. Like it can stir up a lot of that kind of thinking. Um, but is it possible? Absolutely. I struggle to revise that SP never said he wasn't ready yet to be in a relationship in SATs, hearing him, because in SATs, I hear him say he's ready now. I'm not sure if I should persist with that or that it never happened. Good question. Actually, this should we revise something that was not ideal or just persist in the future act that we want? This is a question that I get a lot. Um, if you are not having any resistance, if there was not maybe a lot of history that is kind of creating double-mindedness, uh, in that case, if it doesn't feel necessary to do revision because you can easily go to the end and you're not noticing a lot of pushback, then I would just continue to go to the end. However, if there is resistance due to the past and things that were said, if you're noticing a lot of old memories and if you're noticing yourself ruminating on the past, I would continue to revise. Yeah. And I've made some videos about revision naturally. I do have that revision masterclass coming out this week. It will be out this upcoming week. I'm going to announce all that. But yeah, I would myself personally, if there was anything from the past that took place that was not ideal, I would revise it. Hey, Missy, when it comes to everyone as she pushed out, my friend really wants to get a boyfriend and keeps having struggles with dating. Is this because I am seeing her as an insecure person? Yes, yes. And this is actually really important to note because when it comes to everyone as you pushed out, it is always like our perception of other people. Like, so if we are perceiving a friend as somebody who is insecure, somebody who has difficulties in relationships, can't find a boyfriend, um, then we naturally want to change that. We want to imagine differently about this person. We want to start to see that friend in a new light. See her as somebody who is incredibly confident in herself, somebody who guys just chase after her all the time. She can get anybody she wants. Yeah. Yeah. That is an incredibly important thing to bring up. Let me see. You, you guys are so sweet. I love the interactions. Where the hell was my spot? But won't it make manifesting harder if we go for the big goal at once instead of doing our small changes? Would it make our subconscious mind harder to believe it if it's too different from the 3D? Oh, there was a part one. Hi, Missy. Okay, sorry. I just saw this, Amy. Hi, Missy. Manifest a 3D, when we manifest a 3D we want, should we do it step by step or we could imagine a completely different 3D? Neville said he likes to set a big goal, including every small goals he wants. But won't it make manifesting harder if we go for the big goal at once instead of doing small changes? Um, good question. No, not necessarily. For some people, yes, it might feel challenging to manifest the big things. I actually, the last video I came out with was talking about this in particular, about big manifestations and small manifestations, and how that's all us creating that perception. Like, we're giving significance to these so-called big things. Basically, we're making them bigger in our mind. But to the law, I mean, as far as the law of assumption is concerned, it's not inherently biased. It's not partial to anything. It's us, basically. So why Neville really tried to push the idea of going big was to really practice going outside of what you think is normal and natural in imagination, like really stretching those creative imagination muscles, because we don't often do that, unfortunately. We certainly didn't before we found out about this. So when it comes to manifesting in steps, I'm always going to encourage going to the end. I'm always going to encourage to imagine boldly, like really just like get rid of all the conditions, all of the obstacles, what we perceive as obstacles, all the reasons it can't happen. Get rid of all of that and just allow yourself to imagine and have that internal experience. Because I say it a million times, there is nothing in imagination that we cannot have, that we cannot be, that we cannot experience. We can have anything. We can do anything. So, um, yeah. If you're noticing heavy resistance to that idea, if it does feel incredibly difficult, if it's creating a lot of challenge, there's nothing inherently wrong with manifesting in steps. But we do have to make sure that we are continuing to go to the next end and that we're not letting ourselves get caught up in the 3D in the meantime. And so, yeah. The idea that manifesting is going to be harder for the big things, that's us. That's our belief. That's our attachments. Yeah. Hi, Missy. How to eliminate the fear that my partner will cheat on me? Aw. I manifested him back, but there's an involved 3P and he ended things with her, but he feels a bit guilty. How should I go about this? Good question. So if the fear that your person is going to cheat or get involved with a third party, I mean, number one, we have to see and understand that that's purely just a fear of ours, and that it doesn't make it real. It doesn't make, like, kind of coming back to, again, everyone is you pushed out, and because everyone is you pushed out, there is no competition. There's no competition unless, of course, we are assuming there is, unless we are giving our attention and our focus to a third party. So, what I would be doing is I would be focused on imagining and feeling yourself as somebody who is completely confident in yourself, in your relationship, somebody who feels secure, somebody who feels safe and trusting. I think that is really at the root of where you want to direct your attention. As far as what to imagine, these are the concepts that you want to begin to really embody, right? Because with that, like, as the confident and most secure version of you, you wouldn't even be thinking about a third party. It wouldn't even be something that crossed your radar. So that would be my 2 cents. Really hone in on, instead of keeping it about them and seeing it all, through the lens of them, focus on you. Focus on being the very best version of you. And continue to do that until that feels like the most natural thing in the world. Yeah. Rest in peace, James Earl Jones. been binging a lot of his movies the last few days. Hi, Missy. Can you revise something that seems set in stone in regards to finances? Hmm. Because nothing is set in stone. That's that's not a thing. That's not a thing. As far as the 3D is concerned, nothing is set in stone. Everything is changing constantly in the 3D. Yeah. If something appears to be set in a way, it's because that's what we are assuming. Oh, I am on the wait list for your one-on-one coaching. Oh, I love that. And I will be making that announcement before the waitlist opens again. I look forward to hopefully working with you soon. Hi, Missy. Does the drowsy state play a significant role in our manifestation process? I've been trying SATs and keep failing for months and starting to feel nervous before bedtime. Oh, there's a part two. I wonder if there could be some alternative ways if SATs is just too hard for me at this point. I'm nervous because I feel like SATs is necessary for the manifestation to happen. Yeah, yeah. And this is unfortunately a common trap we can fall into. Where did your question go? So there is a reason that Neville almost exclusively talked about SATs when he would talk about like implementation of the law, putting it into practice. Uh, I mean, he didn't just teach SATs. There were other techniques and things that he taught, but primarily he taught SATs because that drowsy state, in that drowsy state, it can be easier for us to, number one, suspend disbelief because we are more relaxed. And number two, we have a better ability to interact with the imaginal world. So it essentially just makes it easier for us to shut out the 3D senses and really engage with what we are imagining. And it can feel more real in that sense. That said, it is so important to note that SATs is not the only way. It's not the only way. It's not the only method. What's happening here, it sounds like just from what you're describing, is that there's a lot of anxiety around getting this right. There's a lot of pressure that you're putting on yourself to get SATs right. And that is in and of itself creating a hindrance. And it's making it more difficult. Because there's an idea that you have that you need to get SATs down perfectly in order to manifest. So we have to do away with that because we have to alleviate this pressure. If we are putting this pressure on ourselves, we're creating more resistance and it's going to bring more challenges and things that we don't want. So we have to do away with this idea that if I don't master SATs and do this perfectly, it's not going to manifest because that's just not true. That's not true. But I would focus on just even during the daytime hours, just getting into if you don't have a meditation practice already, I recommend doing that. Even just a few minutes a day of deep breathing exercises and just, you know, observing, the inner world, the thoughts coming in, the thoughts going out, and just breathing through it. Meditation is going to be a game changer. It goes hand in hand with all of this. But yeah, the fact that you were feeling so nervous because of the significance and pressure is what is creating so much difficulty. So play around with different ways, play around with having inner conversations, any like that. Yeah. Can you please explain briefly what is daydreaming or what the daydream state is? I find that I'm automatically in imaginary scenes, scenarios, and conversations with my SP and future kids. Oh, actually, the next video I have coming out is going to be going more into daydreaming versus imaginal acts, um, and like and going into like why it can seem like we daydream constantly but nothing comes to fruition. Uh, and the biggest difference being daydreams don't feel believable. They feel like fantasy. It feels like we are, wishing longingly or thinking longingly about this thing from the place of not having it. But definitely keep eyes out for that video. I know it is going to be a helpful one for a lot of you. Yeah. David, hello, good sir. Oh, I've missed you guys. I have missed you guys. It is good to be back. All right. Where was my... Hey, Missy, struggling to believe in manifesting, struggling to believe that any of this is true. Yeah. Plus, I've been trying to manifest an SP, new person, only spoke a few times, worried it won't work. This is common. This is, I would even go as far as to say, like, unless you grew up knowing about the law and really implementing it from young age, um, at first it is going to feel incredibly difficult to believe. It goes against everything that we have been taught, quite literally. Um, it's just flipping everything on its head. So yeah, naturally, at first, we're going to have a difficult time believing this, which is why part of what I really try to emphasize and I speak about all the time is the importance of building the faith, building the trust. And one of the best ways to do that is purely through self-observation, just really beginning to see how the law is already in effect, that the law is already always working. It's never not worked. We may not see that initially because we're very much on autopilot most of the time. Um, but the more that we observe the inner world, our thoughts, our reactions, our assumptions, our beliefs, and what takes place outside of us in the 3D, like we're going to see the relationship between the two, inevitably. Um, but yeah, I would make sure that you are, not just aside from using techniques to get your person back, make sure that you are also building trust. Otherwise, yes, it's going to feel very scary. There's going to be a lot of anxiety. There's going to be a lot of fear. And all of those things, I mean, number one, they just don't feel good. And number two, they can act as hindrances. So, yeah. Make sure that you are putting this to the test. Sorry, guys. Chat bounces around a lot. Trying to go back and find my spot. I'm doing good, Mr. Incredible. Doing good. Hope you are as well. For a while, my SP, hi, Georgiana, by the way. For a while, my SP would message me in a friendly way. Recently, there hasn't been anything in 3D. Should I take this as a good thing that he doesn't want to be just friends? I don't want friendship. I absolutely, I would, yeah, I would make sure, as long as you're not perceiving or taking that in a negative way or in a way that is unwanted, right? Because ultimately, it is whatever you assume it is, right? So that too, and just remembering the importance of continuing to go back to the end, going back to it is already complete. It is already done in here. Whatever happens in the 3D, like whatever transpires, like we're not gonna know what that bridge looks like. We're never gonna know what the bridge looks like until we're on the other side of it, until hindsight. So, if whatever the assumptions that we're making as far as the actions or movement or absence of movement in the 3D, just make sure it lines up with what you ultimately desire. So that's totally fair. But continue to go reinforce that end state of already being. Do not put all your attention on separation. That's all I'm going to say. Just curious how long you went without your SP before he came back for good. Good question. You mean in total? Like the total time? Or just the time that I was manifesting him back? I think from the time that I made the decision to get him back to when he came back for good, I mean, it was the better part of a year. But granted, again, I was for a lot of that, I was approaching this in a way that was not effective. I was doing all the wrong things, basically. Basically. Um, yeah, it was about a year, but most of that time was me going about this in a way that was not gonna work. Once I reached the Sabbath, he was back in a couple of weeks, handful of weeks, something like that. Something like that. Hey, Missy, how to keep the feeling of the wish fulfilled when having unpaid bills? How to react during the day? Thanks. Good question, Vivian. Also, hello. How to keep the feeling of the wish fulfilled despite the 3D circumstances? Well, I mean, first we don't need to micromanage. We don't need to like try to force ourselves or pretend that we're in a good state if we are if we're not. This is not about pretending. This is not about faking it or anything like that. Um, this is about continuing to turn within to experience what you desire in imagination until that begins to naturally feel real to you, until that will begin to carry over into the day to day. You'll notice a natural change to the thoughts that you have. You'll notice a change to your reactions. And we can't force a reaction. Reactions are subconscious. Um, so if we do have a reaction that is not great, if we do react negatively, so to speak, that's okay. I mean, it's going to happen. We don't need to beat ourselves up about it. We just the daytime hours are really opportunity for observation. It's really just taking into account what state we are occupying more often than not. based on said reactions. So we don't want to try to suppress them. We don't want to try to, avoid it. We really need to be able to observe and discern what state we are dominantly occupying. Um, so we have a better idea of like where we need to put our attention. Like perhaps there are still attachments to these old beliefs and assumptions, these old stories, that I really need to focus on reconditioning. Yeah, yeah. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if I need to go into that a little bit more. Why does a manifestation that you truly believed would happen and had no doubt over not happen? I'm confused. Good question. Well, I mean, number one, why are you assuming that it's not going to happen? Like, just because it may have appeared to miss the mark doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. I've lost count of how many times things appear to go opposite of what I intended or what I imagined. Basically, it appeared that things were going to go in a way that I didn't want it to go, and then it changed. Even at the 11th hour, it changed. So, number one, we don't ever want to assume that just because things appear different than we had assumed or imagined, that it's not going to manifest still or that we ruined it. Um, but if there was something that we truly believed would happen, had no doubts, like if any time things in the 3D appear opposite of what you had imagined or assumed, that can be feedback into really taking a closer look at your mental diet, like really observing what you are believing and assuming, because it can be very, very subtle. Like a lot of the fears and the doubts can be very subtle. There were plenty of times I noticed that I thought I was doing this right. I thought I was living in the end and doing all the things I was supposed to. But on closer observation, I still had a lot of that fear and old tapes playing underneath the conscious surface. So again, why I stress so much the importance of self-observation is for things like that, so we can really begin to see, number one, what we are truly and actually believing, where we are truly and actually dwelling, um, and then of course, don't assume that it didn't work or that it's not going to work. Never assume that. Quick, might be a little buffery. My apologies, guys. I know. I'm so sorry for the lag. I know. I'm gonna make sure that this gets fixed for next time. Missy, what's the number one technique you do to manifest? I wouldn't say if you're talking about like in general, what I think the number one technique is, there isn't one. All the techniques serve the same purpose, and that is really to embody that state, that version of you. What you desire to experience is to help you capture the feeling of that. No matter what the technique is, that is the aim. That is what it like, it's a tool to help us achieve that. Now, myself personally, what I primarily use is lullaby method or isn't it wonderful and sats. Those are my go-tos. Those are my loves. But that said, I mean, there are plenty of people who have had success with affirmations, have had success with, um, you know, isn't it wonderful? What's that other one? I remember when. But again, all the techniques serve the same purpose. So it's really about playing around and seeing what resonates most for you. John, that's wonderful to hear. Things are changing for the better. Yay! Yay! Just because it seems impossible does not mean it won't happen. Yes. Yeah. All right, let me see about try to close out a few things, maybe. Yara, there you are. Marie, hello. Happy Sunday, Missy. How do you feel about manifesting things that are not within our own personal proximity, such as world hunger, wars, etc.? Good question. I mean, my rule of thumb is always imagine the very best. Imagine only the world that you want to see and experience and live in. Like always, like even on the macro scale. I know it can feel very, very challenging to believe that we can have any effect on the big things, like huge, like global politics and things like that. Um, but nonetheless, always imagine the world you want to be living in, that you want to be experiencing. Um, yeah, because if creation is finished, all states of consciousness exist, all realities. There's good and bad states, of course. That's duality, but uh, that world peace, that state, that reality does exist, and it just feels lovely. It feels lovely too. Yeah. If you are supposed to feel it real and feel a sense of satisfaction to manifest, how are you supposed to feel it real during revision if revision often involves unpleasant memories? Good question. So, the point of revision is to really begin to imagine and reinforce the good memories, the memories that you would have wanted to have that felt ideal. So that would that would what's the word I'm looking for? If we imagine the memories as if we wanted them to go, that would leave us very much with a feeling of satisfaction. That would probably leave us with a feeling of relief, right? So again, the purpose of revision is to remove ourselves from those bad memories. It's to recondition them. It's to imagine things had gone differently so that we do feel better. I hope that makes sense. But if I'm misunderstanding, let me know. I can live in the end and believe in my imagination, but after about 3 weeks, I get upset when there's no movement. Been on my SP journey for 2 years, hard to stay motivated. When I'm in the end, I feel great and I don't care about the 3D, but the lack of movement creeps back in. And I've noticed this 3 week cycle. Did you experience this with this long time apart? Initially, yeah. Initially, I absolutely fell into that pattern. Like I would imagine I would feel really good, and then it would almost seem like things were going well in the 3D, but then something would happen, or I'd start to get doubts again. I'd start to get fears. Essentially, it just wound up in a feedback loop. So what you're describing is not uncommon. I'm certainly not the only one who's experienced this either. But this is also why I said at the beginning of the live stream, like one thing that we have to really like sort of change our perspective on is looking for 3D movement or being upset if there's not 3D movement. That like what's going to keep us Persisting is by gauging how we are feeling internally, like noticing the change in feeling, noticing the change in reaction over the long term. Because ultimately, this is not about, like, or I guess I should say, we don't know how long the bridge is going to be. We have no idea. And it reminds me of a story that Neville talked about in one of his lectures where him and his wife were looking for an apartment. And Neville had a very set amount of rent that he was willing to pay. He had a number in his mind and said, I'm not paying any more than this for the rent. Well, he found an apartment and the rent was more than he had imagined and that he had intended. Um, Nonetheless, Neville kept persisting that this is the amount of rent I'm going to pay. Even after he signed the lease, he moved in, and for 3 months, he was paying more rent than he had imagined and that he had intended. But despite that, he persisted on this is the amount I'm paying, no more, no less. After 3 months, his landlord came to him and said that there had been an issue on the books and that they had been overcharging him and that the actual rent that he was supposed to be paying was to the dollar what he had imagined. And so he got all of that money back. All of that was refunded back to him. And he ended up getting a lot of concessions for the troubles. So he got, like, free wallpaper, free bookshelves. The point of the story is we really have got to stop putting our attention on 3D, because this will continue to be a repetitious pattern so long as we are continuing to, like, look out there for movement and validation. Like, regardless of what is taking place out there, stay steadfast to where you are in here and do not waver from your aim. He has the best stories. That is good to hear, Vivian. Yay. I'm glad to hear that things are going, you're noticing better dreams, that you're noticing better inner conversations. Yes, a better mental diet is absolutely what we want to see. That's what we want to know. What if you don't recall feeling joy other than when you were with your SP or previous relationships? How can you change belief to believing that happiness comes from yourself? Codependency issues. Yep, I struggled with this very thing, Debbie. I had very strong codependency issues, a lot of fear around abandonment. Anything that I had felt that brought me happiness was from an outside source. Like, before finding the law, I was always needing my happiness and well-being to depend on the 3D. Like, I was at the mercy of the 3D, basically. And the entire point of these teachings is to take that power back. Now, at first, it may feel challenging. At first, we are not going to really, at first, it may not feel real necessarily, but that's why we practice. That's why we practice. We practice giving ourselves what makes us happy. We imagine the experiences that we desire that make us happy. Because even if we are perceiving the object of our desire and thinking that this thing or this person is what's going to give me happiness, happiness always comes from within, anyways. Feelings are internal, always. So it is a little bit of a practice, yes, but it will become easier and easier for you to, like, really be able to see and discern that it all stems from within me, anyways. Like, I don't need something to happen out there in order to experience happiness in this moment. But one step at a time. One step at a time. Oh, heating up pizza. That sounds good. Hell yeah. Welcome back. Hi, Missy. Thanks for all your great advice. You are welcome. I wonder, do you listen to any type of relaxing music while doing sats? And if so, any you would recommend? Thank you. Oh, you are so welcome. I'm glad you're here. Do I listen to music while doing sats? No. Mm-mm. Like sometimes I'll have like if I'm just in meditation, like if I'm just doing like a meditation during the day, I might have a little bit of white noise or sometimes even like pink noise, something like that. But I found for myself personally that music is very distracting. But that's just me. That's just me. I always go into the silence. Can you please make a video on illustrating on what insights that your manifestation is on track and working? Yeah. Yeah. Illustrating like how to know that it's working. Is that what you mean? Yeah. I've got a number of videos already kind of uh, like how to know that your imaginal acts are taking root or how to know that things are being impressed, if that's what you mean. I certainly don't mind talking about it more. I have a question that came up in a group that I am part of that discusses manifestation. Can the use of substances, alcohol, weed, etc., affect your ability to manifest? What's your take on this? Um, I mean, affect your ability to manifest, like, I guess, in what way? Because absolutely, you can still manifest even if you drink alcohol or smoke weed or anything like that. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to make it so you can't necessarily. Um, yeah, I mean, if having a little bit of weed makes you relax and helps you to relax more and get more into a feel good state, ain't nothing wrong with that. Same thing with a glass of wine or whatever. Nothing wrong with that either. It's all preference. If you reach the Sabbath, how long does it take after that to manifest? Good question, and I can't put a time on it. No one can, because it's going to be different for everybody. What I will say is, once in the Sabbath, once you've reached the Sabbath, it typically speaking does not take long after that. What I will say is that the time that it takes for your manifestation to appear and externalize is directly proportionate to the naturalness of it, how natural it feels, how normal it feels. So once in the Sabbath, things feel pretty natural. It feels like it's done, that there's no work left to do. Generally shows up pretty quickly. Yeah, but I cannot put an exact time frame. Mm-mm. Have you thought about the law and the placebo effect? What are your thoughts on this? Proof of the law. How else can you explain? The placebo effect is basically like something is working because you believe it is, or something isn't working because you believe it is, right? I'd say that that's pretty solid proof. What we believe and assume is what becomes our experience. Yeah. Can you explain time lag after entering and remaining in this state? Absolutely. And I have made a video about time lag and just time in general. Ah, of course, I forget the title of it off the top of my head. But if you put in the search bar Missy Renee, like time it takes to manifest, I've actually made a couple of videos, so those should pop right up. But I mean, basically, time lag is double mindedness or the frequency of double mindedness. Again, the how fast things are going to show up is proportionate to how natural it feels, how normal it feels. So, uh, once that new state becomes the dominant state, once that desired state becomes the dominant state, and it really feels most normal and natural, that's why things appear to show up really quickly when we have no double-mindedness, when there's no kind of attachment to it or um, no beliefs that are counter to it. The so-called small things show up super quickly, and so-called big things don't. Yeah. Going back up. I love to see that there's so many people here that are doing good, and that makes me happy. The Sabbath is the period of rest. The Sabbath is essentially once we have impressed that new idea, that new belief, um, essentially when we get to the place where it feels done for us and we no longer have any urge to do techniques, we don't have any kind of there's nothing left to do because it's already done. Hey, Missy, every time I try to revise a memory with my SP, another bad memory pops up. Then I'm switching back and forth between the memories, and it makes me feel anxious and overwhelmed. Ugh, I know this can sometimes happen when we are first starting out with revision. It may be that we revise one memory and then like two more come up. This will subside. Rest assured, this will subside. Um, I would, maybe stick to one memory until it feels like that is completely reconditioned instead of feeling like the need to bounce all over the place. I know it can feel challenging. I know revision is one of those things that can take a little bit of practice because, again, it's such a weird idea that we can change the past. That's a very new concept for most people. So yeah, if you're finding yourself feeling overwhelmed, stick to one memory and just keep it that. Or practice first with just revising the last 24 hours. Just the last 24 hours, if there was anything that happened, or if you wanted something to happen but it didn't, just do that until you really start to strengthen that muscle, so to speak. Oh, I'm sorry, Martin. I'm sorry if your question was missed. Yeah. Um, how do you feel about subliminal affirmations and bypass our conscious mind and head straight to the subconscious? I mean, like with any technique, it's what feels good for us. If it feels like it's having a positive effect, if it feels enjoyable, if we notice a change in how we are thinking and reacting in the day to day, then I would certainly keep doing it. But no, I mean, no matter what the technique, it's all again to serve the same purpose. Yeah. But I would say, more importantly, again, why the drowsy state can be really helpful is because in that drowsy state, we may notice significantly less resistance. Subconscious mind is more wide open for impression in that time. In relation to this question about how you see your friend, what if how others see you affects you? This is a really good question. So, what if the way that other people see you affects you, just like how you see a friend affects that friend? Here's the thing though, in your reality, in your world, it is all your assumption. Even what we are taking as other people's assumptions, how other people are seeing us, is still our assumption. Like again, it's all what you are assuming because you are the one who is aware in your reality. You're like everything is coming in through your consciousness and your awareness. So if I am perceiving other people, think this and this of me, and this is how others see me, then that is what will continue to be out picture. They're going to continue to show up in a way that I am presuming. If I think that they think these things about me, then that's what's going to continue. I hope I'm making sense there because this is really important. There's nobody out there that can affect you unless you believe that to be true. That needs to be stressed. Oh, sorry, guys. What is the difference between double-mindedness and simply falling out of the state but immediately returning? Those are the same thing. Also, I like your name. Good name, Renee. If I'm understanding the difference between double-mindedness and falling out of the state but immediately returning, that is the same thing. That's the same picture. You are so welcome. If you are in a relationship with a good partner, but it does not feel like the partner of your dreams, do you call it quits or do you stay? Oh, I mean, that's ultimately up to you, but my big thing is don't settle. Don't ever settle for something that you don't want or something that does not make you feel your very best, something that doesn't light you up, something that doesn't feel good for you. I know it can be easy for us to sometimes stay where, we may not be happy, but we're comfortable and all that, but no. But as far as like, do you call it quits or do you stay? That is ultimately something that you must decide. Yeah. Hello, I'm manifesting SP and my negative thoughts are so much more persistent and ruin my day/mood. I fear to manifest this one thought as others have already. I affirm when they pop up, but I'm scared. Ugh. Oh, I'm so sorry. And it's unfortunately way too common in this community that we are fearful of our thoughts. But here's the thing that we have to remember about our thoughts. They're just thoughts. Thoughts themselves don't have power. Thoughts themselves don't do anything. They can't do anything unless we give them that power, unless it comes from us. I've made a video talking about how to overcome negative thoughts, but always, always, always remember that the thinker is more powerful than the thought. Always. You are never at the mercy of your thoughts. The thoughts are a byproduct of a state. Nothing more, nothing less. Check out the video that I made about negative thoughts. I think that one will be very helpful for you. You are the sky and the thoughts are the clouds passing by. Absolutely, yes. The sky does not fear the clouds, even when they're gray and scary looking. Hi, Missy. What is the difference between assumptions and beliefs? Pretty much the same thing. Pretty much the same thing. The definition in the dictionary of assumption is a thing that is accepted as true or as certain to happen without proof. And belief, let's get technical with this, an acceptance that a statement is true or that something exists. So pretty much the same thing. Oh, oh, Francesca, I did not see your questions anymore. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, here we go. Missy told my SP we will be together. He said, "You live in your matrix, I will live in mine." Should I not discuss this in the 3D and revise the incident? Yes. Yeah. We want to be very careful about who we are talking to about this law and our aim. Neville Goddard used to say all the time, tell no man. Because if we do have any fears or doubts or uncertainties, they can reflect from other people. Like we can see our fears manifested back to us. So absolutely, I would revise it and tell no man. Yeah. Especially if they are saying and doing things that are triggering and upsetting. Yeah. Keep your manifestations to yourself, please. It's the best. I agree. Yeah. I mean, unless you were talking to somebody that you know and trust, that they know about the law and they are going to be very encouraging and supporting and understanding, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. How to manifest friends with benefits to committed deep relationship. Same way we manifest a relationship, same way we manifest anything. Go to the end. See that relationship, describe that perfect relationship. How do you want to feel? How would this person be showing up for you? How would you be acting and reacting? What would you be doing together? Get very clear and very familiar with what that looks like. And that's where you are going internally. That is your home base. And here it is already so. And persist in that. So that makes it sound like we have to be perfect. We don't have to be perfect. Mm-mm. No, and as humans, we're not perfect. That's the point. That's the point. We're not going to be perfect all the time. That's not a thing. We're going to have our moments. We're going to have. Even Neville said that he like even after years and years of learning and applying and lecturing about the law, he would still have to like remind himself to turn his attention away from the 3D. Like he had moments where he'd get caught up for a second too. This is not about being perfect. We don't have to be perfect. No. I've always hated that like that societal construct or idea of like we have to be perfect at everything. Like that's Missy, have you heard of reality shifting? I have. Some people think those are just big manifestations. What is your opinion on it? Yeah, I mean, well, we're shifting realities all the time. They're just typically like baby jumps, so to speak. But that's something we're always selecting states of consciousness or realities of experience. So we're always shifting in and out of states. And if you're referring to like a big jump to a different reality that looks very contrast to what this is that possible? Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, if you are wanting to like play around with the concept, I would first practice SATs. I would practice getting familiar with SATs and that hypnagogic state, getting into that drowsy state and really like that can be a massive doorway. But is it possible? Yeah. Oh, thank you, Richard. You are sweet. I appreciate that you are a Neville speaker through and through, so that you were live and wanted to hop on and say that. Good luck, everyone. Thank you, sir. Good to have you here. While doing affirmations, I get lost in thoughts where SP reaching out and I start discussing about the lies he told in the past. How do I fix this? Good question. So if you're noticing some intrusive thoughts or you're having difficulty in keeping your attention, I would recommend something along the lines of like a focused attention meditation or something to help practice redirecting your attention. Um, you you can as far as like how to apply it, there's a lot of great Google articles out there, but something to help with really disciplining where you keep your focus, because what we quickly find is that our mind is sort of this wild animal that only goes where it wants to go and we seem to have no control over it. um, so a very helpful part of this practice is learning to apply something that will help us really keep practice with keeping your focus. And when your mind wanders, you direct it back. When your mind wanders, you direct it back. Yeah. The list method can be an awesome way to build faith. It can. What I will say about the list method, if we're going to make a list of small manifestations in order to build faith, we have to make sure that we are setting and forgetting. If there's any part of us that's looking for these manifestations, these small things, if we're noticing ourselves kind of looking and seeing and observing, like, okay, where is it? If we are constantly bringing up the fact that we haven't seen it yet, we have to avoid this because it's not going to show up if we're looking for it. It's not going to show up if we are chasing it. So I have to make sure to make that clear distinction in there. Set it and forget it. Eckhart Tolle is amazing. Yeah, if anyone here has not read The Power of Now, read that book. Read that book. All right, got time for maybe a few more questions. Revising the past seems easier than revising the past 24 hours. I think because the past 24 hours feels more real. Advice on the mindset that helps address this. Good question, Jackie. Yeah, and that's see, absolutely, absolutely. It's gonna probably feel different for everyone, but certainly revising The more recent things can feel more difficult because they feel more tangible. And really, the way that we want to approach this, or anything that we are revising, the way that we want to approach revision is first with the concept and understanding of creation being finished. Creation finished means that every outcome, every scenario, any possible circumstance, past, present, or future, doesn't matter, already exist. They already exist, and we can access any of them here. So instead of trying to look at it like I'm trying to force myself to change the past or believe something happened if it didn't, if I'm going into it like that, I'm probably going to notice a lot of resistance to that. I'm probably going to have a lot of pushback because it's going to feel like I'm lying to myself. So instead, we are sort of, you can almost think of it like we are entertaining this different outcome. So we fully acknowledge that this thing happened. Like, we're not trying to deny that. This was a state that we experienced, but what if we had experienced this state instead? Like, what would that have been like? Just purely for the sake of playing with the idea, purely for the sake of allowing yourself to imagine something differently. Not to change the past per se, but just like, okay, if this happened instead, what would have happened differently? Like, how would I have felt different? And you're just letting yourself go there. I hope that makes sense. But it's when we're trying to lie to ourselves, when it feels like we're trying to like deceive ourselves, that's when we're probably going to have the most amount of backlash and pushback. And it's not about that at all. Kelly, I am so sorry. I don't know what happened to your questions there. I feel/know what I imagine is fact. Finally clicked. The shift feels amazing. I want to live in 4D every second, but no, I have to live in the now. How can I shut out the 3D world? I know. How can I shut out the 3D world? I know it is old while having to live in it, work, life, etc. I want to live in 4D always, but I know I have to live in the now. If I trust my sat/imaginal acts are real, can I treat inner talks, daydreams the same? Good question. Also, first, hell yes, I am so happy this clicked for you. And the shift does feel amazing. It feels absolutely amazing. Um, and we do always live in the now. Here's the thing. We can't ever not live in the now because this now moment is the only moment that is. Period. Period. So we couldn't live in any other moment but now if we tried. So I'm trying to make sure I have a full understanding of what you're saying here, but how can I shut out the 3D world while having to live in it? I want to live in 4D always, but I know I have to live in the now. Well, I mean, but we are also always living in the 4D in this now. Like, again, when we are observant, we're going to see that we're always in imagination. We're always imagining something. In this now moment, we're always imagining something. It might be related to work, it might be, in whatever task that we're doing, but we're always living in the 4D in this now moment. We're never not doing that. So if I trust my sats, imaginal acts are real, can I treat inner talks, daydreams the same? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If you know that what you are imagining is real, then in anything, whether that's a thought, an inner conversation, inner monologue, daydreams, like experience them as real because they are. Yeah. I hope I'm understanding and making sense. Here's an example. I'm watching your live now in the 3D and closing my eyes and I'm with SP elsewhere. So both are happening at the same time, etc. Yeah, well, everything is happening at this same time. I guess that's kind of where I'm getting confused, because there is no time. Everything already is taking place right now. Like both of those states, you with your SP and you sitting here watching my live, like both of those are taking place right now. This might be getting really confusing and I apologize. But does that make sense? My book release. I will announce as soon as I have a date for the book release. I don't have it yet, but I will absolutely. My aim tentatively next spring, but trust me, y'all will be the first to know once I know. Hello, Felicia. Good to have you here. Thank you, Ados. Yeah, if you guys like the stream, be sure to hit that like button. Oh. Thank you. I get it. Just watching a different TV show. Same characters, different show. Thank you. Yes, that's it. That's it. Exactly. You got it, Jackie. If I set it and forget it works for the list method, then that is the secret for all desires. Mhm. Mhm. To be clear, forget it doesn't mean like give up on it. It doesn't mean that you have to like walk away from your desire, to be abundantly clear. But if you are in a state of already knowing something to be true, you're probably not going to be thinking about it all the time. You're probably not going to be constantly trying to fix the problem or think about something longingly, right? Essentially detachment. Yeah. But once again, the law works the same for everything across the board. Y'all really are the best. And I missed you guys. Oh, I missed you. It is good to be back. It's good to have everyone here. All 200 of you. Dang. All right. Could we completely delete someone from our reality through revision, as in all signs of them ever have existed being gone? I'm seeing success stories regarding this, but I'm curious for your view. We could. We could. Now, to be clear, like we can't delete someone out of existence because everything already exists and always will exist. But as far as our reality is concerned, like what we are observing and aware of, we could revise to where somebody is and was no longer in our life. Yes. Yes. Could you briefly describe how a day living in the end looks like? Living in the end would be the same as the Sabbath, essentially. Essentially. Living in the end and the Sabbath just means that it's done. So a day living in the end would look like you going about your day as you normally would, but the biggest difference would be the absence of like fearful thoughts, double-mindedness, like wondering where the hell it is, all the things that imply that you do not have or are not the person you desire to be. So it's more about the absence of those kinds of feelings and reactions. But as far as a day in the life, you just kind of feel normal. It just feels normal. When you think about your desire, it just feels natural. It's not about like being over the moon necessarily or being ecstatic. I mean, you can have moments where it feels exciting or what have you, but generally it just feels good. Yeah. And I do got to finish my meditations. Oh, I'm behind on those. And I apologize. Thank you guys. You are so welcome. I love Sundays. Sundays are my favorite day. So get to hang out with y'all. Yes, Darren, it's in slow mode. I know you hate that. And I'm sorry. You guys are the best. Oh. Detachment is lowering the importance of your desire. That's a whole topic to discuss. It is a whole topic to discuss. And I need to definitely make another video talking about it. Yeah, the word detachment can really throw people off because it sounds like giving up or moving on, or that's not what detachment means in this context. Yeah. It's more about detachment from that old state of absence, the state of lack. That's what we are detaching from, to be abundantly clear. But on that note, I'm looking at the time, and unfortunately, I do have to call this a wrap for today. But thank you guys so much for being here. This has been awesome. Your questions have been awesome. Y'all are so amazing. Thank you for being supportive of each other. Thank you for being you. Just much love to every single one of you. And definitely keep eyes out this week for new video and announcements and all that fun stuff. And I hope to see you guys here next week. If I did not get to your question, I apologize. But again, I am here every Sunday. So do have a wonderful rest of your weekend ahead. Much love. Take care. Until next time. Love you guys. Bye.